I'ma take your tongue out and lick my ass with it.
Bus driver, this here gal refused to give me her seat.
Hey yo, this video is gonna be a bit different to my casual fans who came here for cartoons and hijinks, but don't worry, I got another video for you guys that I'm sure that you'll enjoy. But until then, if you just want to continue this video just for me and not the subject alone, I really appreciate it. Now without any further delay, let's jump right into the Def Jam retrospective. Let's go. Now for those familiar with the Def Jam video game series is also familiar with the concept, but originally, it didn't start off as you think. It was originally going to be a sequel to the video game WCW Mayhem, but made by the AKI engine this time, where they set up the hype in magazines and articles as the ultimate next-gen wrestling experience, with their competitor being SmackDown Just Bring It, and we all know how that turned out. But it wasn't until WWE bought WCW in 2001 where the project inevitably cancelled. While EA and AKI sat in their offices, unsure what to do with the early development of the game already, whether to delete the whole game in general or making it to a WWE game, something special happened. Hey yo, how about a fighting game, but put a bunch of niggas in that shit, son? Yeah, and thus Def Jam Vendetta started reconstructing itself for production and make its release over the span of 2 years redevelopment time, which leads to a January 31st, 2003 release date. I'm not sure if that's how Def Jam got the license or not, but there's no source telling me otherwise. So, the game was created with the AKI engine, which is also kin to a lot of famous titles prior to this project. So the game was already halfway done when it started, which means all it needed was characters, finishers, and a concept. And boy, did they go all the way out on all of these. The roster of the game was obviously the centerfold to the name, so Def Jam personally called up their library of artists and asked them if they wanted to be in. And how could they say no to this? Honestly, I think that Method Man was the most cooperative and professional during the development of this game. If he weren't involved, I'm sure it wouldn't even exist. But the entire game isn't just filled with Def Jam artists, it's filled with stereotypical fun characters as well. Russians, rednecks, Drake, they have it all, alongside playable women as a tasteful bonus rather than just eye candy. Everyone also has their own winning and intro animations, making everyone unique in their own way.
Hey y'all ready to kick this off tonight? I mean, y'all with me?
Nigga, what? Speaking of uniqueness, let's jump into gameplay and movesets. The gameplay is rather stiff and difficult to get used to, but in a good way. Once you learn the ropes, you're in the clear for a satisfying experience. But when you don't play for a good 3 months, the loop starts all over again. One wrong move in this game will be your downfall, if you're not careful. Just like in AKI's previous games, primarily WWF No Mercy, the movesets of every fighter feels like it's been kept in from the other WCW project. And the character's moves only varies with certain sets of attributes, and can't be edited otherwise. Now with that being said, let's talk about the revolutionary blazing feature and how fucking awesome it is. Right now, I'm sure the critics who know little about this game just think, oh cute, it's just a fun little wrestling game with a couple of rappers in it, big whoop. But nah, here's the thing that makes things a little more fun.
Watch him bust his ass! Watch him bust his ass!
There's this new finisher system called Blazing that replaces the traditional attitude adjustments and RKOs. These niggas do outlandish shit that blew my mind as a kid, and it made the game 10 times funner. Now what's interesting I find about the Blazins is that rappers in the game who have them, the development team asked them what they wanted.
Power job, man, you know what I mean? Putting y'all in chicken wings, figure 4 leg locks, iron sheet, I'ma bend your back up, you know what I mean? Cobra clutch, all that, you know what I'm saying?
What up?
Yeah.
Chest,
Yeah.
scissor his head,
Yeah.
have to spin, or break his neck.
Yo, get it.
So, you know, throw them bows. Very big song, you know. So I need to have a move where I'm throwing my elbows around, you know what I'm saying?
Put the dude on his shoulders like this, like he gonna torture rack him like this. Put him up on his shoulders like this. Then he swings him like this. And throws him and drop him face first on his head.
He bust out his finisher.
I am more than positive that Method Man probably came up with a majority of the side characters' finishers, but the extra effort the crew went through to make the game these rappers wanted was awesome in my opinion. Now the story of this is pretty straightforward. You select a character out of 4 to play through it. Briggs, a dishonorably discharged soldier, Proof, an ex-superbike racer, and a guy I'm assuming everybody picked first, Tank, a massive Japanese fighter, and the former high school basketball star, Spider. You meet up with your old friend Manny for some street fights to handle his debt to D-Mob while he's injured. You originally left the underground fighting ring in the first place because D-Mob took your girl. So you fight a couple of guys, get a couple of girlfriends, your old girl starts having feelings for you again, and D-Mob starts to notice.
Time to go home.
Also, rappers start challenging you out the blue because they think that you're hot shit. Eventually, you and Manny sign up for a tag team competition for old time's sake. D-Mob then issues a Def Jam fighting challenge to which Manny wants you to drop out before you get in too deep. In which it backfires because you end up getting gangbanged by 3 guys, which was a real pain in the ass when I was young. And Manny betrays you as well because D-Mob owns him. The conclusion to the story is you beating the Def Jam tournament, your girl now wants you back, and D-Mob's not feeling that. So he threatens to shoot you, in which Manny takes the bullet, which leads to a final fight with you and D-Mob. But remember, nobody ever beats D-Mob. You beat D-Mob, you get the girl, you keep your friend, and everyone lived happily ever after. All in all, this game is pretty okay for the start of the series. I enjoyed the main villain D-Mob due to how corny and old school his insults were.
Yeah, move out your $5 ass before I have to make change.
Which made defeating him far more pleasurable. This game as a whole is a step in the right direction. Sure, it's not really a pick up and play, but once you get to the juicy bits, it'll keep you going. So let's move on to the next title. Def Jam Fight for New York is a title that everyone primarily remembers mainly for its roster and innovative gameplay mechanics. And get this, it only took a year to make, hitting store shows at September 20th, 2004. That's amazing. Here's my assumptions around that though. I think that Backstage Assault game that EA was working on turned into this. At least that would explain the areas and such. Also, the game was already pre-made as well, so all they really had to do was get the characters and story done. They probably even started production on this project once they got the first week sales of Vendetta. After that, I'm assuming artists were lining up at EA's doors at that point. So that's my hypothesis with the game's development history. This time, the game's main kicker, besides Snoop Dogg being in it, was the creation feature, which means anyone could create their own rugged thug life character to fight in the streets in, instead of picking from defaults in the previous. This also gives the buyer the creative freedom to create people who aren't even in the game, like Tupac and John Cena. Sure, the creation system face-wise wasn't all that fluent, but for its time, we put up with it. No, you can't create your own movesets, and I think it's totally fine that you can, because the game gives you the ability to pick a fighting style between 5, and the best part about it is you can combine fighting styles to make one completely new one, which includes new moves as well. It's so simplistic and innovative that it hurts. Not to mention that you can pick 4 different blazons for your character as well. This is just awesome. But I'm just gushing too much at this point. Let's start talking about the game in general. The gameplay is a lot faster than Vendetta, and they took away the every single stage has a ring concept, and mismatch it with more realistic area approach to the game, with Fight Club-esque stages, parking lots, subways, dojos, and even rooftops. There is now multiple ways to win a fight in the game as well, instead of just pinfall, which was removed from the game, submissions, and finishers. You are now given multiple ways to knock out your opponent depending on the area and moveset, whether it be a haymaker, smashing a guy's brains out, or just simply hitting him with a weapon. So a match can go quite quickly within those circumstances. So now that I gave you the basic setup of the game, let's jump right into the story. We start off the story directly after beating D-Mob in the first game, in which he's being arrested for attempted murder. As he heads to the big house, you crash into your cop car with your black 2002 Honda CR-V and end up getting the bad guy out of there, which means that you're the bad guy because you're associated with the bad guy from the last game. I don't know. Let's continue. Nobody in this group though is feeling you because you're the new guy. So now you gotta prove yourself by beating up a couple of niggas in the underground, which leads to you facing the first MC, Omar Epps. You know, that nigga from Love and Basketball? Yeah, good luck, but he's not the real threat. Ha! Be prepared to face one of the 3 most frustrating fights of this video game, Ice-T.
You're nothing but a punk, your daddy's a punk, and your mama's a bitch.
Once you somehow find the power to overcome his submission techniques, you finally meet the big dog himself, Snoop Crow, and he threatens to steal everything the D-Mob owns, clubs, fighters, the whole shebang. But D-Mob doesn't think that his jokes are funny at all, so Crow heads out before things get hairy, and makes D-Mob look like a bitch in his own club while doing so. Blah blah, Carmen Electric shows up. Crow's words gets to the gang's head, so they plan to take out Crow's clubs from under him the way of the code. Fights. So the war begins. You beat up numerous guys after that, claiming several turfs and making a name for D-Mob, and eventually Snoop Dogg gets fed up and proposes a winner-takes-all contest against Fat Joe and you, which ends up pissing Sticky Fingers off. But don't worry, you'll see him later. So then you beat the fuck out of Fat Joe and everyone lived happily ever after. Until you get pulled up on, and due to the main character being retarded, he runs after the people who just shot at him without a weapon because, you know, video games, you are then greeted by the 2 of the 3 most frustrating fights of this video game. A subway match against Danny Trejo.
Dicks out for Harambe.
And then you end up killing him. After the fight, D-Mob ends up getting arrested, and you and Method Man go back to the base to come up with a plan. Your character immediately suggests a blast back, in which Method Man responds with,
Do I look scared? No, but I ain't stupid either. We gotta do things the right way, D-Mob's way.
Redman wakes up, and you guys immediately go on a raid to take down Crow the right way. You win Cadillacs, you beat the shit out of some rappers, and Crow begins to get pissed about his clubs being taken, to the point where he asks you to stop before something bad happens. You decline, and something bad happens. Crow takes your girl, who just so happens to have black hair, and now you fight for him to get her back, which means you lose the respect of all your homies, especially Method Man. Which is kind of weird because that will make you a good guy in Vendetta facing D-Mob's crew again, but a bad guy in this one. Well, whatever. Once you completely went out of clubs for Crow after beating Redman and several others, the big dog wants you to do one last task, killing that nigga from Soul Plane. And that brings you over the edge, and finally fight back for what's right, and beat the shit out of Busta Rhymes, making him spill the beans about the whole operation.
Where is she, man? Tell me.
And I be doing it to death, and now I move a little foul, nigga better call a rapping.
Speeding things up a bit, you save your girl, you burn Sticky Fingers alive, you pull up on Crow with the squad, and you get the grip pinned on the nigga. You don't shoot him because you're stupid. And that mistake leads to the 3rd of the 3 most frustrating fights of this video game. A window match against Snoop Dogg, to which you end up straight murdering Snoop in cold blood by tossing him 100 stories out of a window. And that's the end? Not a storybook climax, but this game is about the streets, so I shouldn't be expecting too much. Me personally though, I think if they would have killed off D-Mob, it would have been more satisfying killing Crow. It just feels like no payoff like the first game. But overall, this game does live up to the hype. From its creation system to the roster, at this point, how can Def Jam Interactive fix something that's not broken? It's only up from here. right?
I was born with rhythm. My pulse is the beat. The beat is my music. The music is my weapon, and I will use it to break you down. Rise to the beat and become an icon. Rated M for mature.
The way I'm going to explain this game is going to be completely biased, because not even I wanted this game as a kid after looking up gameplay online. I also didn't have a next-gen console at the time, so my sanity was sealed. Def Jam Icon is the third installment to the series that has nothing to do with the previous. It was made for the newly introduced PS3 and Xbox 360, and it was hyped up to be a brand new enhanced graphics next-gen experience for a new and returning players on March 6, 2007. Now, the only problem with this is it is not fun. Seriously, I've never been so bored looking at a game all my life. The combat is slow, there's no fun grapple moves, and they went on to remove what made the game great in the first place. The blazons, you know, the thing that actually made people go,
oh shit! Oh, boosh! That move is sick.
They ended up replacing it with a new DJ system that people can't just pick up and use. I still have trouble with it to this day, but I don't know, maybe I'm just shite at this game. Besides those aspects, the game in general is actually alright. It visually looks nice, the arenas are cool, and the creation system has enhanced. It has an awesome presentation. My only pet peeve is the color scheme they chose. Everything is just white and bright and low contrast. It really wears on the eyes. But all the things I just mentioned are cool and all, they stray away from the main aspect of what makes the game. The gameplay. I'm sure the developers' hearts were in the right place, but everything in this game just went against Josh Holmes' vision, and he's the main creator of the game. He said in an interview, and I quote, "The overall focus of the fighting system is fun, over-the-top action rather than a simulation of technical fighting. And boy, did they fuck up the series by not following that one rule." Basically, to sum up the game's development, EA Chicago made this game instead of EA Canada, who made the first two. So looking back, it was probably going to be a shitload of fuck to begin with, just knowing this information. The story, however, is something I can't get into because I didn't play through it, for obvious reasons. So it's going to be hard for me to judge just from what I'm looking at. Basically, you and this guy Curtis Carver own a label together, and you two sign artists take down other labels and steal their talent for negotiable prices, from what I understand. But I think it just gets convoluted from there. There's some shit that involves Anthony Anderson as a threat. There's stuff involving detectives or something, and your character again doing dumb shit for a female, like the last two. I guess that's just love for you. Honestly, that's all I know about the story besides that. If there's anything I'm missing, or if you know the whole story, feel free to leave it down in the comments. I will pin it immediately. So concluding my thoughts on this game, once you remove the main ingredient from a great franchise, the end result can leave a bad taste in your mouth. The roster is amazing for its time, the fashion isn't too outdated like the other games, and the soundtrack is actual tracks that people know outside the game, and the beat to them goes with the environment. I just personally can't play anymore due to the slow combat. It's just not my cup of tea, you know? Now I know what you're wondering. This was the death of the series, right? Well, yes and no. Before the game's poor reception really set in, they were already planning on making a sequel for the next year. The information for the sequel given was going to be identical to the last game, but a bit more cartoonish in animations and grappling returns. But I'm assuming they didn't want to risk a sales flop due to the reviews on Icon 1. So Def Jam Interactive withered off the face of the earth for a good 3 years before returning with Def Jam Rapstar, a hip-hop karaoke game, proudly competing with the oversaturated Guitar Hero market. It was published by Konami and developed by some other company that later got a lawsuit for music rights and had to shut down due to low sales. Which means the faith and hype for indie Def Jam games after was lukewarm. And I'm sure Def Jam Interactive went and closed their doors after this whole debacle as well. Or have they? This is where I come in to probably make a difference. Everyone's arguments about getting a new game from the series have been repetitive at this point. They always revolve around, I just want to see Kendrick Lamar versus Drake. Or, Def Jam Icon was stupid, they have to make another one now. They all let their nostalgia block their vision of business. With that being said, here's how I think a new game will work, and I have a plan around it. More than likely, everyone who played the old games at this time are older and they have money, so they're guaranteed to check it out. And the people who are already adults will take this as a breath of fresh air from all the other realistic simulations out there, which comes down to my next point. Bring back the outlandish gameplay. I know that this has been requested since day one, but the only reason I asked for it is because there's nothing like it right now. So the sell value could really be high because there's nothing like it for the next gen. Sure, fighting games are cool, and there's only one wrestling game shitting out a product every year, but mix that shit together and add rappers to it, and you'll be in the money, baby. And that leads to my final comment, roster. Every time I play these games with friends, the usual comment I get is, how come Lil Wayne ain't in this game? How come Eminem ain't in this game? How come so-and-so didn't make it? And I usually avoid their ignorance towards the question, but now it's time to come clear. They are not a part of Def Jam. Haven't y'all niggas noticed that all the characters in the Def Jam games are from Def Jam? Oh, but D-Dub-Man, T.I. was never part of Def Jam though. That's only because he wasn't signed to a major label at the time. And Russell Simmons was probably really cool with him and had the rights to his likeness and music. That's it. That also goes to the majority of characters in the series that aren't with Def Jam officially. People who are signed with major labels cannot be part of Def Jam games. Case closed. If the game was to be released in today's time, the roster looks pretty entertaining judging off of who Def Jam currently has. And that doesn't even include the potential returns to the series and unsigned artists. To this day, I'm still surprised that Kanye West wasn't in Fight for New York or Icon, but that could probably be an ego thing. Shit, I wanted a Def Jam game so bad at one point, I made my own. It has tons of artists I wanted to see involved, and it also has a lot of copyright shit and stuff that'll get me sued, so I'm not sure whether to link it or not. My final standpoint with the Def Jam series in general is that it's a game about niggas fighting, and boy was it fun. I really hope this video has awoken the eyes of the higher ups, and that doesn't mean making a game identical to Vendetta or Fight for New York, because that'll be uninspired. Make an even better version of the two, and the community will support you all the way. Will there ever be an HD remastered version of any of these games? Most likely not, due to licensing and copyright issues, and every character is not with the label anymore. But at this point, what do I know? EA could probably drop some shit at E3 or something, but that's highly unlikely. My final verdict on each game is Vendetta 8, Fight for New York 10, Icon 6, and Rapstar 4, which concludes this rather long retrospective of the Def Jam series as a whole. Be sure to snap me on Twitter, subscribe to be notified when I eat a turkey sandwich, and look out for the next video coming tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this. This has been D-Dub-Man of ReviewYaLife, and this video is sponsored by Channel Frederator. See ya! Oh yeah, I did a podcast too. Here's an excerpt from it.
You ever fallen for a trap, dude? You ever fallen for a trap?
Yes.